Well, folks, we've got some big news on the 2026 Florida's gubernatorial election that's going to occur. There's been a lot of speculation around who's going to run, as current incumbent Governor Ron DeSantis is term limited at the end of his current term. And now we have a huge endorsement from President Donald Trump in this race here. But before he even got into the race, I'll preface that. But before we get into this, if you're new to the channel, drop down below, hit that subscribe button, make sure you smash that like button if you like the content we're putting out. Make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. Now, this is a huge move, really a huge move. The governor of Florida for the last, 8 years, since 2018, or 2019, I guess, has been incumbent Governor Ron DeSantis, a very strong conservative voice in the Republican Party right now. And this is a huge move that will affect this race. And before the person he endorsed even got into the race. Now, President Trump took to Truth Social and endorsed Representative Byron Donalds for the 2026 governor's race, praising Donalds as a highly respected congressman and a total winner, urging him to run and offering his complete and total endorsement. Let's take a look at the entire statement here. I'm hearing that highly respected Congressman Byron Donalds is considered running for Florida governor, a state that I love and won big in 2016, 2020, and 2024. It's kind of funny how you leave out 2022 when the red wave that never came only hit on Florida. Just like to throw that out there. I know Byron well. I have seen him tested at the highest and most difficult levels, and he is a total winner. Byron has a great wife, Erica, 3 beautiful sons. They are very proud of him. As governor, Byron would be a big voice and will work closely with me to advance our America First agenda. He will fight tirelessly to secure our borders, stop migrant crime, strengthen our military, protect our vets, restore our economic power, advance American energy dominance, and defend our always under siege Second Amendment. Byron Donalds would truly be a great, powerful governor for Florida. And should he decide to run, he will have my complete and total endorsement. Run, Byron, run. Complete and total endorsement. That's pretty big for a representative who's not even in the race yet. Because it's like, and it is significant. Because you have to remember, look back at 2018. Ron DeSantis, he was on the House Freedom Caucus. He was kind of a no-name, low... what am I trying to say? That he was a low-profile congressman in Congress, was running to be governor, and Trump's endorsement really propelled Ron DeSantis from a relatively quiet and unknown congressman to the governor's mansion, basically. And I don't want to say he got him completely there, but in the Republican Party, the Republican primary, it got him. It's like he surged immediately. 2018 still was a tough race against Andrew Gillum. I think he only won by, 30,000 votes. Let's take a look right here. Let's go back. Here we go. Yeah, about 30,000 votes he won by. And then you look at 22, where you expand that margin from 4,070,000 to 4,040,000 to 4.6 million to 3 million. It's like they lost. It's like, I get it, it's a midterm, but still, he couldn't even thresh the 40% threshold. Talk about how legendary of a governor Ron DeSantis is. I mean, the guy has been great. He's been great on almost every front. The only thing I'm going to give him some slack for is probably a bad idea to run for president. You're looking back on it, I see what he saw at the time, but also at the same time, I think we all knew that Trump wasn't going away. I think there was maybe a couple months after he left office in 2021 when it was like, But also, I think by that summer, it was very clear that he was going to run for president again. Donald Trump was. And we know how Trump was in the primary in 2016. It's not like it was unknown how he was going to act in that primary. He's fighting for his life. And he really wasn't in 2024, but in 2016... he really was. But so this could propel Representative Byron Donalds. Now, his name carries a lot more weight than I think DeSantis did in 2018 when he was running. Obviously, Byron Donalds, if you look back, you remember anything about all the speaker votes. There was a couple representatives that continued to vote for Byron Donalds, even though Byron Donalds supported Kevin McCarthy, supported Mike Johnson, a lot of people did write his name in, and he's just a outspoken Republican congressman, not afraid to say what he thinks. And I think there's a lot of people that can resonate with that. People like that, someone who's going to fight back, and that's why he's made a name for himself in the Republican Party. Now, Representative Donalds has not announced officially that he's going to run. Obviously, the race is rife with speculation on other names that could potentially be thrown out there. You look at someone like Matt Gaetz, obviously nominated for Attorney General, then dropped out. Was a former representative from Florida's 1st Congressional District. That could be an avenue that he could go down, and he has expressed some interest in running for the governor's mansion in 2026. Let's drop down here and see if it's got anything else. Okay, publicly express interest. Okay, from the Tampa Bay Times. I'm starting to yeah, it's like, I'm not the biggest fan of Matt Gaetz. I think I think from a political perspective, I think just on his policies, I think I agree with him a lot. He's got himself in a lot of trouble with these underage girls, and I don't know what's true, and I'm just, it's a bad look, whether any of it's true or 100% of it's false. And, he did pay off, I believe, 1 or 2 of them. Don't quote me exactly, I'm just off reference. Paid off maybe 1 or 2 of them. Just not a good look. Not a good look for the GOP. Because here's the thing. The Republican Party is going to give Trump a lot more leeway than they are their down ballot elected Republicans. You've seen it time and time again where people are willing to go out and vote for President Trump, knowing some of the things that, how do you say it? For a typical politician would be taken down by 1/1000th of what has been thrown at Trump. And the people give him a lot of leeway with that. People down ballot, not as much. They're not going to give as many congressional or statewide office Republicans that same privilege that they give President Trump. Now, Jeanette Nunes, who's currently serving as the interim president of Florida's International University and was also a former lieutenant governor, it has been also seen as a potential candidate to run for office. And then also Wilton Simpson, who's the state's agricultural commissioner, has been mentioned as a possible candidate. But ultimately, Trump's endorsement of Donalds is probably going to hold a lot of these people who are maybe on the fence, probably going to get him to back down a little bit. Trump, it's like obviously he's endorsing him this quick. He doesn't want a crowded field. He wants to make sure that Florida is governed by a good governor. And that's what we had during COVID. I think Ron DeSantis got the national coverage because of COVID. He did so good on it. Why wouldn't anybody want to go to Florida during COVID? It was open. They weren't locked down. That's how you go from a what would you call it, a 30,000 vote victory to you stand in defiance at the federal government and you win by 1.5 million votes. That's like, yeah, that's got to say something that Florida did something right during COVID. But another name that we have not talked about on here is the current governor's wife, Casey DeSantis. Now, she has said that, there was a lot of speculation that people were trying to push her to potentially run. Maybe there were some big donors that were pushing her to run. And there was even a poll that came out that she had like some of the highest favorability of any of the other elected officials, which makes sense. She's a first lady of Florida. I don't think you're in the political. She's not really taking the punches that the politicians take. You're the first lady. But recent reports, she has declined, is not going to be running in 2026 for the governor's mansion, which I think is a good thing. I'm not a big fan of husband runs and then the wife somehow jumps in like that. It's like, unless she was in her own right, already had her own career, political career in that sense, I feel like I'd be willing to make an exception. And there may be some exceptions here or there, but just not the biggest fan of it. Look at Bill Clinton. And now some could say that Hillary Clinton had you could say, career before that in law. But ultimately, name recognition had everything to do with Bill Clinton. look at the speculation around Michelle Obama. It all has to do because of Barack. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. But back to the actual race. Who could be the strongest candidate in this race? Obviously, Trump's endorsement carries significant weight in Florida, a state Trump won it by about 13 points in the last election. And this back-in could give Representative Byron Donalds a substantial advantage, which it's going to give him a substantial advantage. Now you can advertise as you have been selected by the kingmaker in the Republican Party. Especially during the primary among the GOP base, that's just red meat to the base right there. But, however, it's essential to consider name recognition and political experience. Well, Donalds has gained a lot of prominence. You look at people like Matt Gaetz, I think he has an even higher profile than Donalds. And, there have been races where President Trump has endorsed someone and they went on to lose the primary. But ultimately, I think if Donalds wants this, I think it's his. But there could be some more established politicians who still decide to put together a campaign to get the nomination. We're going to see what happens. But I think people like Matt Gaetz, I think that's going to deter him quite a bit, especially with this nomination. I just don't think it's going to. I just don't. I don't think many people are going to jump in this race now. You might get a couple no names that jump in, but besides that, you're not going to get someone in Trump's MAGA Republican Party, most likely, who's going to be jumping in. But with the current Governor DeSantis, as he approaches the end of his term, you think about legacy. That's a big discussion. I'd say he is one of the best legacies of a governor in the history of the United States. He is America's governor, just like Rudy Giuliani was America's governor. Ron DeSantis is America's governor right now. His tenure at the governor's mansion has been marked by significant policy decisions and a strong alignment with conservative values. You talk about abortion, very, very strong pro-life. Freedom, very, very pro-freedom, especially when we're in the midst of a 100-year pandemic, making sure that the state is not chipping away at individual rights and individual liberties. He stood in the face of what the Biden administration was doing, stood for our liberties, our rights, and conservative values. And DeSantis' influence in politics, and especially Florida politics, is undeniable at this point. And his support or his unwillingness to support someone in this race could sway the race. You see, if he decided to throw his support behind someone else, or if he threw it behind Donalds, it's like, if he threw it behind Donalds, I think you're basically locked up at that point. And like we said, speculation around his wife, we're not digging back into that. The name is going to be very prominent in the state's history. People like DeSantis, but his wife, and I'm sure they really like her too, but we just don't want her to jump into politics. Sorry. But really, the conclusion for all of this is that the 2026 Florida gubernatorial race is shaping up to be a very pivotal moment in the state's future. You're going from a very legendary governor. How can you one-up one of the most legendary governors America has ever seen? And with Trump's endorsement, the GOP field is already seeing a shift in who could potentially throw their hat in the ring. And as potential candidates weigh their options, consider strategies, or if they're even going to throw their name in the ring, I think this is going to be a dynamic and a race that we should watch and stay tuned into. But we're always going to be here to continue to monitor any developments that come up, provide you any insight in however the political landscape evolves over the next 2 years. We're going to be here to bring you as much coverage on it as we possibly can. Who's going to be the next governor of Florida? Who's going to try and one-up one of the greatest governors ever, Ron DeSantis? Now, that's going to be it for today. Drop a comment down in the comment section down below. As always, like, share, subscribe. Don't miss another video from our channel in the future. That's all for today.